Hello, my name is Charlie Hagan, and as you can tell from my accent, I was born and grew up in West Virginia at a time when coal was king, and my father drove his 1960 Mercury sedan that got 10 or 11 miles per gallon fuel economy. Now, since that time, there's been a paradigm shift, an entirely new way of looking at our universe and the environment that surrounds us. In the late 50s and the 1960s, starting with people like Rachel Carson and her book Silent Spring, there was a geographer and oceanographer at University of California named Roger Revelle. And what Roger Revelle did was, with the assistance of a man named Charles Keeling, he went to one of the most pristine and unadulterated places on Earth, the top of Mauna Loa volcano in Hawaii, and took samples of atmospheric gases. And what they found, the data that they accumulated, showed that every year the carbon dioxide in the summer, since the dominant landmass on Earth is in the northern hemisphere, every summer the carbon dioxide levels drop due to photosynthesis of the biomass of the Earth. And every winter, due to plants and animals and also wildfires releasing carbon dioxide, then the carbon dioxide came up a little bit. Okay, and it was this biphasic curve that is now known as the Keeling Curve. And what they noticed is that every year the CO2 would go up in the wintertime, come down in the summertime, but every year the average CO2 concentration got a little bit bigger. So we know that over the past 50 to 60 years, the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere has increased in concentration. And this is the root cause of the concerns of so many environmentalists and conservationists, because carbon dioxide, as you probably know, and other greenhouse gases can act to trap heat in the atmosphere of the Earth. Okay? I started out as a naturalist and birder, following, I suppose, my mother's footsteps. I'm a past president of the local Audubon Society, and about 6 years ago my wife and I started a very amateurish website that we call Shenandoah Naturalists. It's been our interest in local conservation and ecology that led us to refocus our efforts on the climate. This year we're starting a new organization called Shenandoah Climate Action, and we hope to make an impact in the politics and the local perception of what climate change means to the local population. Now, climate change can be described as having 5 cardinal attributes. Okay? First and foremost, climate change is predictable. The science is excellent. We know what's going to happen. In spite of the efforts of so many contrarians to muddy the waters or cast doubt on us, we know that the vast majority of all science organizations involved in this debate are firmly on the side that climate change is real and that it's happening all about us. Okay? The second attribute is that climate change is insidious. Particularly for people living at our latitude, it seems justifiable to look around you and say, well, I don't see any climate change here. The summers are pretty much the same. We have snow in the wintertime. We have heat in the summer. What is changing? But of course, as you know, at other latitudes, climate change is happening more rapidly and is a more important factor on the environment. Now, climate change is also delayed. All right? What that means is that we're experiencing now changes that are the result of greenhouse gas emissions that happened 10, 15, 50 years ago. All right? And that delay flies under the threat recognition of most people when they look at the climate crisis. They just, you know, human threat recognition is a very primitive thing. It depends on primitive neural reflexes, and this is a crisis that's more subtle and can get under people that don't really understand the science and the chemistry behind it. So the climate crisis is predictable, it's insidious, it's also delayed. All right, the effects that we're seeing now may be the effect of climate greenhouse gases that were released, as I said, 20, 50 years ago. And the gases that we're releasing now will still be up there 50 years from now. And that is an important and very significant attribute to the climate crisis. That stuff is up there, and it's not going away. Finally, the climate crisis is persistent. All right? This is a crisis where you can't just take your foot off the accelerator and glide to a stop. It doesn't work that way. Those gases are up there and they will stay up there. So for us to take measures to control the amount of heat accumulation that our planet is taking now, we have to act today to stop a crisis from developing years or decades from now. And the final attribute that climate crisis has for us is that it is absolutely catastrophic. I think we've just experienced a flash flood in West Virginia where unfortunately a couple dozen people lost their lives. It was described as a 100-year event, but unfortunately when you look at the weather, even at this latitude, the weather events that were typically described as 100-year events are now happening more like every 20 years or so. And that is why we need to take an intense and concentrated look at climate change and act locally and politically and in every way possible to prevent this from gaining more momentum than it already has.